So live concerts is a great chance to join with community and be expressive with divine love and to really feel that sense of peace for the first time in over a year. And I'm not going to lie, I went in with some apprehensions to yesterday of how are we going to pull off being segregated into 4x8 pieces of land, and what is security going to be like? Are they going to force us to stand in one spot? How do we be fully present in this moment if there's so many guidelines and restrictions placed upon us? And I can tell you that the situation was not that at all. It was beautiful. I got to see people, brothers and sisters, for the first time raise their hands in just pure gratitude and joy, and children and adults alike spin openly in a field and watch the music and the love just cascade over the hillside, and to be fully present in a moment that was so peaceful and beautiful and joyous. And it's no secret that the Spirit in us and the Spirit of all loves dancing. It is our way of expressing our inner love and our inner joy. And I was completely present to that moment last night, and to just be a part of this little tiny moment in time of world peace was just so beautiful to participate in, given this time of coming out of isolation. So a little piece of my peace will be with you today as we express the world peace that naturally resides in all of us. And now we acknowledge each other, because being creatures of habit, most of us who attend our Sunday service on a regular basis sit pretty much in the same place. So right now, just take a moment and use that monthly power of imagination. And just imagine sitting here and use your mind's eye to really notice what the platform looks like. Now notice who is sitting in front of you and beside you and on either side of you. And from your heart, send the love. Receive the love and feel the real energy of connection of this spiritual family. And as we continue to connect virtually, know that we are connected, heart and spirit. And we are joined as we take a moment to hold our church community in thought and in prayer. And now for our statement of being. God is all, both visible and invisible, one presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God, and I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And for some announcements, the big day is coming. Church will open for in-person worship services on July 4th. So there's more details to come about that very joyous occasion where we could all be back together again. Duck Race to End Racism tickets are still available. The event itself is on Saturday, June 26th at 11 a.m. Duck ticket selling will be open until Monday night, and that's Monday, June 21st. We all must be waiting till the last minute. So far, we've sold just 13 tickets for Unity. With that being said, the highest selling organization will be eligible to win an additional $250 to benefit this great cause of the Center of Dialogue and support Unity at the same time. Natalie Dart, our new ministry coordinator, will be holding in-office hours Wednesday, 1 to 3 p.m., and Thursday, 1 to 3 p.m. as well. We are in need of social media post authors. If you've never have written, or if you are a returning contributor, this is your time. Please contact Jacob in the office. Monday meditations with Ann Wall meet next meet on June 7th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Social justice discussion groups are off this week. See you again on June 28th and 29th. And then, of course, our weekly discussions continue as well. So now we would like to welcome today's guests. Unity is a positive, practical approach to Christianity. We are culturally Christian and spiritually unlimited. We honor the many paths to God. If you are a first-time viewer, please contact the office via phone or email so that we can be in contact with you. And blessings for joining in. And our 5 basic principles. 1, God is. God is the source and creator of all. God is good and present everywhere. Number 2, we are. We are spiritual beings created in God's image. Number 3, we create. We create our life experiences through our way of thinking. Number 4, there is power in affirmative prayer. And number 5, we live. We live these spiritual principles. So take a moment to reflect on how one or more of these principles have shown up in your life the past week. So I just want to share a little bit of how we use the basic principles in our house. We have turned the basic principles into affirmations that we use on a regular basis. So as we know, there is no place that we can be that God is not. There is no situation nor circumstance that is presented to us where we can't use the 5 basic principles. So we use the children's version. God is, I am, I think, I pray, I do. And one thing that comes up a lot in our household with children who are approaching an age of individuality is the word I can't. And that is something that really just kind of gets to me sometimes. So an example is, Vera likes to say, I can't do this for whatever reason. And my response is, God can, you can. If you think you can, you pray you can, then trust me, you can. And for me, God is patient. I am patient. I think of patience, I'll pray for patience, and I will be patient. So I think a better way or a more productive way for the principles, for us to be aware of these principles and work every day throughout our life, is to just turn it into a mantra and then be really present to the fact of how often they show up and how they can really be used for your greater good. So now we're going to bless the prayer box. Just be always mindful that silent unity is there for you 24/7, day or night. 1-800-NOW-PRAY. If you're ever in need and you don't want to reach out to our prayer chaplains or to one of our friends here at church, 1-800-NOW-PRAY is always a great place to go. Great and Holy Spirits, we affirm your presence and your love. We know that whether or not the prayers are written or spoken or held in our heart, they are always answered. You are always working for our higher good. As long as we remain in patience and in love, your divine timing will always provide the answers that we seek. We move in gratitude with this greater knowing, this greater truth, that you are always present. And this box contains nothing but love and affirmation that's already being answered and worked on. We are grateful for this knowing. We give gratitude today and every day for your divine timing and for your love and your light over our lives. And in your name, we say amen. All right, And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Miss Cybie Mauro and her talk on Imagine That.
Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning. What a beautiful prayer that was, Natasha. Thank you. So this morning I am doing a talk on Imagine That, and although you're not here with us in the sanctuary, I'm imagining you out there in love streaming land, and maybe you're sitting in your pajamas, you're outside on your deck having some iced tea, whatever you're doing, just know that we're joined in spirit, and we can imagine that. So I'm going to start this morning with a story. It's an excerpt from a folk tale. So there are riddle stories in the folklore realm, and this is a riddle story. So there were two men who had a dispute over an object, and they could not settle it between them, so they went to the judge. And the judge, hearing both sides, thought they both had valid grounds for ownership, and so he didn't know what to do. So he gave them 3 riddles, told them to go home, and now the next day they were to come back with their answers. And whoever answered the riddles the best would be the owner of the object. So he asked, what is the richest thing in the world? What is the heaviest thing in the world? What is the quickest thing in the world? And one man went home and he thought, no problem. He asked his wife about it, and she said, no problem. She said, the king is the richest thing in the world, iron is the heaviest thing, and our gray mare is surely the swiftest thing, for she has never been beaten. Now the other man, he could not think of what to answer in these questions. So he was wringing his hands, and he had no wife to ask. He lived with his daughter, and she saw him in his state of anxiety and asked what was the matter. And he told her, and she laughed and said, all right, I will tell you what to say tomorrow. And so the next day when he went to court, the other man gave his answers, and then this man said, the richest thing in the world is the earth, for it gives us everything that we need. The heaviest thing in the world is sorrow, for it weights on man's shoulders heavier than iron. And what is the quickest thing in the world? The mind, because it can go to China and back in a single second. So, absolutely, the mind, and that's what we're talking about today, but perhaps there's a fourth question. What is the most powerful thing in the world? And I would answer, the imagination. It is that part of us, that part of our mind that has the ability to see beyond what is, to embrace all possibilities. It is unlimited potential and possibility. It is also, as we say in Unity, creative. Thoughts become things. Things held in mind produce after their kind. Now, June is the month of imagination, so that's why I chose this topic. And so the power of the month is imagination. The disciple that we look at is Bartholomew, and I will not be addressing that today. The location is at the third eye. So I'm going to say that is really a wonderful image, isn't it? So we see with our physical eyes. Our physical eyes, we see with eyesight, right? But it's also eye, the small letter I, eyesight. It is what the logical, linear, egoic mind sees, the 5-sense world. But when we move up to the third eye, which is also the 6th chakra, and it's considered the gate to consciousness, we have a perception that is not based on looking outward at appearances, but looking in and beyond. It is meta, it's not the physical eye, it is a metaphysical eye, beyond the physical. And so it opens us into a world of unlimited possibilities. And so there's no accident that I think that this month, that third eye is the location of imagination in the body. The color for the month is light blue. Now, if you think about the sky, it's just, if you look up at the sky on one of these days, like today, and please, this is an invitation, go outside today, sit and look at the sky, lie on a blanket, whatever it is, but notice the sky. And when you look up, you will get a sense of that unlimited, infinite capacity that we see as a metaphor in the sky. So this morning I did it myself. I was feeling a little anxious about the talk and so on and so forth, and I got my chair out, went out, and just looked above the trees, above everything, and there was the sky, and I just breathed in that unlimited possibility of the power of my imagination to see myself as having the words be in the flow, and so that was a wonderful way to start. So imagination, the dictionary says, and this is the first time I think I really like the definition in the dictionary, it kind of jives with us. It says, it is the faculty of forming new ideas, concepts that are not present to the senses, the ability of the mind to be creative. So both of those things are true, that it is, we can imagine things that we are not yet seeing, and through that imagination, we can bring them into reality. So imagination is considered to be the primary power of the 12 powers put forth by Charles Fillmore, our co-founder of Unity, because it makes us co-creators with God. It gives us access to all the other powers when we have that imagination opened. I'm going to read a couple of quotes here about imagination. So James Dillett Freeman, who was the poet laureate of Unity, he wrote, "Imagination is the act of power of forming a mental image of something not present to the senses or never before wholly perceived in reality. A power that frees us from the limitations of our senses, the power of conception." And then Neville Goddard, who was he was a 20th century metaphysical teacher, said, "Your own wonderful human imagination is the actual creative power of God within you." I love that. Your own wonderful human imagination is the actual creative power of God within you. Amen to that. And so think of the word imagination, and I'm going to ask Natasha, because she's sitting here, what are the first two letters of imagination? I am. I am. It starts with I am. And so we can say it starts with the I am, and I really like that. And so the imagination is running all the time. It's running all the time, and we don't even realize it. But when we go to the third eye, when we go to that place of meditation and turning inward, we're going to the I am presence, and there we open the way for inspired ideas, inspired concepts to come forth, to answer and fulfill our wants, desires, or needs. So that is what I'm talking about today. So the I am presence expresses through our imagination, and so we become those co-creators with God. So it's generally thought that the imagination is the opposite of reality. Yet, in truth, imagination precedes reality. Look around you at everything in the room, everything here I'm looking at. It all started with an image in someone's mind, an idea, a concept, and then it took hold. And then the substance to bring it into fruition was held onto and brought forth. Everything in existence occurred in imagination first, whether in man's individual mind or in divine mind. So I even say that the natural world, everything in the natural world was a thought in divine mind before it became a reality. So our imagination is actually the most powerful tool we have for creating. I want to talk a little bit about hyperseeing. So hyperseeing is a word I came across a while ago that is used primarily in reference to a sculptor. And so, for instance, I'm going to use Michelangelo and his statue of David. He must have stood before that block of marble, and he was able to see David in the marble before he even put chisel to the stone. And so it is a form of imagination. It is a form of seeing beyond what is. It is a form of seeing the possibilities despite appearances. So you can imagine the sculptor of Mount Rushmore. Imagine that, okay? Really. Those presidents on the stone face, how could that even be? That sculptor could see in that rock face these faces of the presidents and then bring it forth. And he wasn't doing all this, he was dynamiting, and there were crews of men and so on. He harnessed this idea and brought it forth. So, and another way we can hypersee, I think is a really important way, is to see it in others. See the good in others. So despite appearances, despite how someone is behaving or has behaved, to see the good, because we know our second principle is we're all a spark of the divine, and that goodness of God is our true nature and identity. So we see the goodness in someone when we hypersee, despite any appearance. And when we see it, when we really see it, it draws it forth. And a good example of that is Father Gregory Boyle, who is a priest in the Los Angeles area. He started Homeboy Industries. He was put in the inner city where his parish was in the heart of gang territory, and he was just surrounded by violence. And yet he held to his hyperseeing of goodness in these young men and women who were so ravaged by their anger and hatred. And he was able to bring it forth and hold a place for their goodness to emerge. So it was a wonderful example of hyperseeing in humanity. So Jesus told us, judge not by appearance, but by righteous judgment. And righteous judgment is that all things are possible to him that believes. So here we go, that's kind of cycles. So now our imagination is working all the time, absolutely. And it makes so if one of our partners or a friend or a coworker makes a remark or is silent after we've made a remark, we start imagining. We are imagining what they're thinking. We go down the road, we have an entire scenario in our minds, and we can even have an argument and a defense and an attack within a few moments within our own mind and imagination. Dave Barry once wrote a story about a woman and man who had been dating about 6 months, and they were really kind of starting to fall in love. And one day after a date, they were on their way home, and the woman sighed and said, "Do you realize today is exactly 6 months since we started seeing each other?" And the man said nothing. And so in her mind, she goes spinning off into the outer world of, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have said that, I've overstepped my bounds, what if he thinks, this, and what if he thinks that, and maybe he wants more space. And so she's like off in her spinning of her own story. And the man, he says, 6 months? I haven't had the oil changed since we've been dating. And he starts thinking about getting the oil changed and so on, and he's having a conversation with the auto mechanic. So you can see how our minds just go in any direction. So we fill in the blanks all the time and then live from the consequences of the stories that we've created. Our worries and fears are primarily unexamined. undirected imagination at work. To paraphrase Mark Twain, he said, "I've had many troubles in my life, and most of them never happened." And so that's kind of, can you relate to that? I can. So the question is, are you utilizing your power of imagination to create an inspired life? Or are you willing to allow it to continue to be misdirected or directed by the ego? Just as we must harness the power of electricity to utilize for our purposes, we need to harness the power of imagination and direct it for good in our lives, to use it to create. In Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett's book, she breaks down the power of imagination into three categories, and they're progressive stages to imagination. So she says, so they are conceiving, an idea is formed, envisioning, then you flesh out the details of that, and then embodying, feeling the energy of it already in existence. She says, imagination is our powerful capacity to picture what can be, and by holding that idea and developing it until we feel its effect while it is yet unmanifest, to live into that idea until eventually it becomes our reality. And so she embraces all three of those concepts in that one sentence. We've got an idea, we have to give it some life with our thinking about it, and then we have to embody it, act as if. And so that is actually Jesus's, he said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe you have received it, and it will be yours." So believe that you have received it. Boy, how do you feel if you think you've received it? You would be excited, you would be ecstatic, you would be filled with joy and anticipation, knowing that it is on its way to you. So I told the story before about the three bricklayers and a man walking by. They're all working on something and laying bricks. And he stops at the first man and says, "What are you doing?" And the man says, "I am laying one brick on top of the other, and that's all I do all day long." And he goes to the second man, and he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm building a wall." And he goes to the third man and asks what he's doing. And the man says, "Oh, I'm building a cathedral." And he said, it's just going to be the most beautiful building, and the people are going to come, and they're going to worship God, and it's going to be filled with music and joyful hearts and love. Well, three men doing the same job, three different attitudes. Who's the one doing it with joy? The one who can see the vision, who feels it already. And so he is already creating. He's part of that creation. And so I also want to bear in mind that imagination can be used for ill or good. And we all know of examples of using your imagination for ill. I don't have to go into that. But the ego will tend to use the imagination towards making itself empowered. And so it is essential that we take a look and think and take back our power. So one of the things I've learned to do, thank you some of my friends, for instance, when I'm preparing this talk, now I know some people would not believe it, but I get very anxious, and those ideas come up that, what are you doing? You're not a minister, you have no right to be there, you don't have enough ideas, you don't know how to bring them together. All these thoughts come into my mind. So with the help of some friends, I started to use the acronym THINK. So T, I've changed it a little, but T is for, is it true? So stop and think, is it true? When my imagination is running off with something, is it true? And H, Is it helpful? Or we can say hopeful. Is it helpful? Is it helpful to be thinking these things? Not at all. And then I is inspiring. Is it inspiring? And those thoughts did not inspire me to do anything but kind of curl up and want to go away or play a game of solitaire. And is it necessary? I don't think so at all. As a matter of fact, it's detrimental. And then the last one is it kind? Can I be kind to myself and open myself to the truth of my being, which is I am one with God. I've been called to do this today, and therefore I have everything within me that I need. So I used my imagination, and I projected myself to about 20 minutes from now feeling good about having given a good talk. So that's what I want to say. So Paul tells us in Philippians 4:8, he says, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, think on these things. So, true, just, pure, lovely, of good report, those are the things to hold in mind. Things held in mind produce after their kind, as we say in unity. And so Reverend Linda took us through the, oops, I'm going to fall off my stool, the conscious use of imagination. And so she says the concept will always start with some urge, like a desire, a need, a want. And so this is where, and then the ideas, and we can center in that I am presence and go to that third eye space, and there we can join our desire, which is maybe in the head right now, with the heart. And so we join the head and the heart, and then we start to feel the flow of ideas and how it can happen, and so on and so forth. My friend Linda bought a house a couple years ago, and it has a small backyard, and it was pretty overgrown and not very attractive. And her vision, her desire was for a sanctuary, that she could step out her door and be in a little sanctuary. And so one day when I came over, she told me of her vision for it. She, I'm going to do this like a river of stones, and I'm going to have a little circle here for maybe a chimenea, whatever. And she starts talking about it. And so she's giving it life. She's drawing from the greater imagination and really giving it a picture, picturing it in all its details. And we could even feel ourselves sitting there on a deck that hadn't been built yet and enjoying her backyard. And then to embody it is to feel it, to really feel it. So Neville Goddard, who I mentioned before, says we must feel it real. That imagining it isn't enough. We have to join the imagination with the feeling of having already received it. And Emmett Fox, one of the writers that we look to in Unity, he wrote a little book called, I can't remember it, booklet, and in it he says, you must hold the idea and match it with your feelings in order for it to give birth into reality. And another aspect of imagining is reimagining, okay? And not necessarily bringing something brand new into existence, but we live in a time when it's called for our hyper-seeing, our use of our unlimited imagination. So we have reimagined what church looks like. It's no longer a building. It's about building relationships in any way that we can. We've reimagined as a society what education looks like, what work and recreation look like, even shopping, and what does connection, entertainment, and socializing look like. These were all reimaginings. We have had to reimagine what was. And I'd say we've been fairly successful. And now we're called forth to imagine a future. You know, these times require our full use of our imagination. If only we could see what is, if we only can see what's beyond what is, if we only see what is, if our minds are circling that what is, you know, the divisiveness and so on, and all of the violence and hatred and everything that's going on in society today, our future appears bleak indeed. So I refer to John Lennon's beautiful song, Imagine, and he says, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living in peace. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be as one. And so that is a beautiful invitation for us to join our imaginations and creatively think of a better future. We're guided as we open ourselves to that guidance of spirit. We're guided in what ideas can come forth, and then we're even guided to the next right steps on the path to bringing it forward. We must be open and willing, and also willing to look back at ourselves and see how we might be the obstacle standing in our own way. So you have the most powerful tool for creating right within you. Imagine that. And I have an affirmation for today, which is, guided by spirit, I use my power of imagination to bring more light into the world. Guided by spirit, I use my power of imagination to bring more light into the world. And so it is. And now let us just take a moment to move into meditation. And I'm actually going to read conduct the meditation. Reverend Linda has a meditation for imagination, an embodiment meditation at the end of every chapter on every power. And so I'm going to use that today because I find it quite powerful. So just take a comfortable seat. Connect with your breath. With that in-breath, let it open your heart. Let all your thoughts drop right down into that heart space. And let the breath be like a wave washing through you. And my words then become yours. I breathe into the center of my brain. There, between my ears and eyes, I flood with blue light. It is the color of the midday clouds, cloudless sky. Every breath I take, I release into this palette of spiritual imagination. I am floating in an open and infinite sky of possibilities. Nothing can weigh me down. Nothing can inhibit the free expression of my divine imagination. Soaring in infinite space, all things are possible. Divine imagination is my spiritual name and my true nature. I am a creator by divine design. I reach beyond assumptions and limitations. I'm open to and imagining the magnificent possibilities before me. By the power of conception, I catch a marvelous idea of what I can be, what I can do, and what I can experience. I can tell that this idea is mine to express by its captivating appeal. I recognize in this idea the possibility of fulfillment that I have longed for. The marvelous idea I have grasped fleshes out as a vision and a purpose. Like a seed in the ground and watered, this idea is nurtured by my power of vision. I envision the fully formed blossom of my idea now, even while the seed still remains deep in the womb of possibilities. I am the spiritual power of imagination, claiming my divine identity. I embody the qualities necessary for the fulfillment of my divinely inspired vision. I call forth from within me my rightful divine capacities, pouring them out to fulfillment of my purpose. I have eyes to see the good within me. I have eyes to see the good around me. I have eyes to see the good path ahead of me. Whatever seems impossible, by my power of imagination, I declare, with God, all things are possible. I dwell in possibility. I release limiting thoughts and beliefs about myself, others, and any situation. I embody the truth that all things are possible. And feel the energy of your heart's desire fulfilled within you, right here, right now. Imagine I am one with the mind of God, with the energy that has created everything in existence. I use my power of imagination right here and now to harness that energy and let it bring my divine idea to life. Breathing in now, I am one with Spirit. Spirit is one with me. All things are possible. And so it is. And as you open your eyes to see where you are, notice that your inner eye still sees that blue sky of all possibility waiting for you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Cybie. You are a true blessing to our congregation, and I'm very blessed to be here with you today to hear your words. Our mission statement here at Unity of Syracuse inspires, awakens, and transforms lives through unlimited love, prayer, and service. And now is the time in our service when we would receive the tithes and gifts and love offerings. So we invite you to give through the donate link there at the top of the video description box, or by email, by mail. You can send your gift to Unity of Syracuse, 300 West Seneca Turnpike, Syracuse, New York, 13207. And you may wish instead to sign up for regular electronic giving. Please contact the office to do so. And we affirm divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. You are my source. In the blessing of our children, please note there continues to be a live Zoom meeting for our youth and family ministries at 10 a.m. each Sunday. And know that we have a thriving and edifying youth and family ministry. And we bless our children wherever they are, and we see them surrounded by love and light throughout the week. And now, please join me for our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. And wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, friends and family. Have a great week.
Let there be peace on earth, peace on earth. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, peace on earth. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, family all our we. Let us walk with our families in perfect harmony. Let there be peace on earth, peace on earth, peace on earth, peace on earth. Let there be peace on earth, peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, peace on earth, peace on earth, peace on earth. Let there be peace on earth, peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now when every single